Welcome to episode 16 of the Hike or Die Outdoor Adventure Podcast. I'm here with my good friend Craig. Mate, I'm so excited about this episode. We've just been talking to adventurer Richard Mathews. Craig, I don't even want to play the music. I just want to get straight into it.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. You got to play the music. Oh, hello, friends. Welcome to episode 16. You made it, and we made it back out of the cave safely. Quick word about our amazing sponsors, Bluey Merino. Thank you for your amazing merino products. Rios Gear, floating polarized sunglasses that float and look cool. Caribbee, suppliers of some of our waterproof backpacks, dry bags, and packs. And last but not least, Topo Maps Plus. They take us deeper into the backcountry. Thanks, guys. Always appreciate it. Now, Craig, before I ask how you are and we get into this fantastic podcast, I want to do a little bit of housekeeping for new listeners.
Right.
I know I've talked to everyone 1,000 times about it, but do you know the thing I do with the show notes? If you go to HikeordieTV.com, go to the podcast page. When you get to the podcast page, you'll see all of the episodes there. Click on an episode and you'll be able to get all the show notes for that particular episode. So that's any links we've referenced, any videos, all sorts of gear, anything that we've talked about. I usually try and dump it there as a reference point for everyone. I just thought it was important to mention that since we haven't done it for a while and we seem to have a big influx of new listeners.
Yeah, sure. For tonight too, I reckon there'll be quite a bit of stuff to look at.
Yeah, there'll definitely be some stuff for you guys to go back and look at. And if you are a new listener, welcome to this.
Yeah.
It's going to get freaky.
Of course.
How are you, mate?
Oh, good. Thanks, man. How are you?
I'm good. I'm 2 days away from going to my mate's cabin for 5 days, which I am just hanging for.
Yeah, that does sound good.
Yeah, he's got 6,000 acres in the wilderness, and I don't know. There's not much more to say about it.
That's perfect. Yeah.
It's just sitting around campfires, and I'm actually going to take my laptop out there and do a little bit of work, just a small amount, and then do a bit of hike. And I do plan on spending one night out alone. So whilst we'll be staying in the cabin most of the time, every other night, I'm going to take my gear and hike down this canyon and find a nice spot to have a little fire and chill out down there by myself.
Sounds sweet.
Yeah, it's been way too long since I have been out on my own.
I've got my invite to go there. I'm just putting it on the podcast so everyone knows that I am coming. I will be there.
Yeah, you definitely have a pass to get there now. Kindly.
Yeah.
By the generous owner.
Yeah, of course. Just got to get some time to do it. Sounds great.
Yeah, we'll do a little bit of tinkering and renovating around the cabin, but not too much. But plenty of exploring and looking at some animals and stuff.
Yeah, very nice. So that's this weekend. You're getting there now?
Well, I'm actually heading down midweek.
Yeah.
And I'll spend the weekend, and I won't come back till next week.
That sounds good.
So it's been a while since I've been down
there.
Big sigh. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, well, I have been recovering well from our last trip into the wilderness.
You've still been recovering.
Still recovering. You can put it like that. Actually, I've got something to say. I have, since the Steamers trip, and, my ankle held up really well, didn't flinch.
Yeah.
And we went through some pretty rough terrain, right?
Oh, it wasn't just rough. It was completely ridiculous boulders and the angles at which you were climbing stuff. It was out of control.
And then the Tassie trip, my ankle held up fine. So I had not been running for. I actually looked back through my app that keeps track of my runs, and it was 3 years.
Whoa!
I'm not kidding, because if you have been listening, or if you do know me, I've touched on the fact I had some serious just some pain in my ankle when I would run, and so I just stopped running. I will tell you, I've been running every night 5Ks.
Every night?
Every night.
You mad dog.
I'm a mad dog. Which is not a lot, but it's just enough for me to get that feeling back, man. That sort of, I really, really missed it. I love the run and getting that headspace to. So
it is a lot, though. It is a lot if you're doing it consecutively, for sure.
Yeah. So I've had. The bad news is I've still got some pain in my ankle, but I've been able to run through it and keep a little diary, and I'm trying to get my doctor to sort of work out what this really is, because, it went away for so long, and now it's time to sort of test it.
Yeah. What shoes are you wearing?
I bought some brand new shoes in case there was some wear on my shoes, but I'm wearing the Salomon 4s, Speedcross 4s.
Yep.
And I
love
them. They're so firm to snug on my feet, and then... The first 3 nights I had no issues, absolutely nothing wrong, and I was like in heaven. But it has come back where in the first kilometre I get to this point where it's just like it just needs to be warmed up, and it'll spark on every sort of step. I get this pain in my ankle that used to pull me up lame, and I'd have to stop. So I was worried I was doing more damage, but what I've decided is just to push through that, because at this stage it's the next day there's no pain. It's just during the run, and I think it's not much worse than when I used to do a bit of boot camp action, and I'd just sort of at the moment just sort of feel a bit of pain. So I'm going to push through it. I'm going to see how far I can take this. Keep a bit of journey, a bit of a journal, and just work out what's wrong with it.
Would you do me a favour if I asked a favour of you?
You got
Would you go to a oval, like a grass oval,
right,
of sorts in the local area, or a park, and completely take your shoes and socks off and run barefoot and do a couple of laps and see if there was see if you get to that same point in the same duration, or if it takes longer to get to the pain point, or if it is quicker, or if it never happens. Because the theory behind that is when your foot is protected by a shoe, let's take away the whole equation of the drop. So you've got a heel and all these weird things are happening to your ankle. Take away that point, and when your foot is protected, you run harder, you run faster, you hit the ground harder, and once you remove the shoes, you obviously make accommodations or adjustments to your stride because you don't have shoes on. I'm just interested to see what would happen.
Yeah, well, I've been studying it to look for triggers. I want to figure out what is causing it. So I've been running exactly the same trail, but yet can't figure out why at some point it'll start and then stop, and then the next day it just doesn't even happen. So I'm going to do some experiments. I'm trying if I have an ibuprofen an hour before, whether I feel nothing, I'm going to start trying that.
It sucks that you can't read, Because
that I can't read. There's a book, is there?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah.
I told you about it. You weren't interested.
Born to Run, yeah?
Born to Run.
Which is a fantastic song written by
not the king, the boss.
The boss.
The boss.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a good song.
It is, actually.
Less creepy than some of his other songs.
But anyway, I'll watch this space. I'm very proud to mention that I've been running again, because it feels
it
feels right.
Old. 3 years, that's incredible.
Yeah. And
the lighter you get, the easier it's going to be on everything as well.
That's one thing I reckon, that the weight I carry makes a difference on it. So I'm going to see how it goes, and I want to start running 10Ks, not 5. But at this stage, I just switch off at 5 and just count my blessings that I made it to that at this stage.
Yeah, mate, you train up, I'll take you to the dungeon, mate.
Yeah!
Oh, welcome to the dungeon.
Yep. Anyway.
That's cool. Oh, that's good news. I'm happy for you.
Yeah, thanks, man.
On the other hand, I've not run a single step since we last spoke. I did have a run booked in for last Thursday, but at the last minute, work got in the way, so I cancelled it. And then this week, I'm too busy with work and packing for this trip. So I might do a run out there. I'll take my shoes, I'll take everything with me, and I might do maybe if it's just a 5 or a 10 out there through some of the game trails, or even down the country roads, because it's way out in the middle of nowhere. Yes. I keep you posted on that. Now, what other news did I have? Oh, speaking of hiking, remember I said I'm doing that 53-kilometre hike? Did I mention that?
I'm not sure. What's that?
So it's a tough one to talk about.
Oh, yeah, you did tell me about this. Of course you did.
I shot a documentary a couple of years ago about people who have survived leukemia, and they did this amazing 65-kilometre hike through the mountains over 6 days. Through that documentary, I became very close, as you'd expect, because I travelled with these guys for 8 days and hiked with them and filmed them. Became very close to the entire team, all 7 of the survivors. Sadly, one of those guys had a relapse recently. When I say recently, in the last 8 months or so. And he passed away a couple of weeks ago. And there's a hike, we're basically piggybacking onto a hike where you hike, I think you do about 30 something on the first day and then 25 on the second day, something like that, all through the mountains up in the hinterland.
Sunshine Coast?
Yeah, but more of the Great Walk. It's called the Great Walk.
You like Kenilworth and stuff?
It's or even closer to Mullaney, around that area.
Okay, cool.
I did have a look at the maps. They had some maps on there, but that's coming up in 4 weeks. Physically, I got no drama with that. I'll do a couple of more runs, and this hike in this end of this week will be good. But yeah, I need to raise some funds for that, because they won't let you enter unless you get a certain amount. So that'll be my next thing to hassle all my friends about.
Yeah.
Friends, if you're listening, you're about to get Facebook messaged so I can do this hike. For our old mate Rob, he was a dead set legend. Nobody pushed as hard as Rob. That's a fact. So I was joking around to this team for this new hike, saying, getting shirts with "What would Rob do?" printed on them, and then his wife said we should get him on the back so that the people behind who are thinking of quitting look up and have to look at your back where it says "What would Rob do?"
Oh, absolutely!
It's pretty cool, because that son of a gun would never quit.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, so that'd be pretty cool. That'd be interesting. If I can get on the ground up there, that's going to be good fun.
Yeah.
And some of the old crew will be back in force, which is even better. Hey, I had a real interesting one for you, matey. You remember we certainly talked about it on the last podcast, but if anyone hasn't listened to the last podcast, firstly, I'm a little disappointed in your commitment. Secondly, we talked a fair bit about our fear of heights, and when I say our fear of heights, collectively, the 3 of us that were we're talking, we all kind of admitted that it's not something that we do. We don't spend time climbing.
I have a fear of just thinking about heights,
Fear of thinking about heights. Yeah, I wonder what the term is for that. I'm not sure. Know. But it's, I won't make you think about it.
Please don't.
But just talk about it. So I was talking to this guy that I've started doing some work with, and he's a climber. So coincidentally, I think life puts these events and people in front of you for reasons. And I said to him in a conversation, I said, can you confirm something for me? I have a suspicion that if you start small and work up to it, learn the basics, get more confident with how your body moves and also heights, can you chip away at it? And he 100% said, yes, you need to come climbing with me, and we're going to start indoor. I've done indoor before. I don't have a problem with it for some reason because, well, firstly, there's a rope and mats and stuff, and there's not wind blowing past you and 100-foot drop. It's a different kettle of fish. But my point being, he's going to start indoors, get me on some of the basics, and then we're going to move to some of the real easy things like easier peaks like Mount Biwa. And then I said, what if I just kept doing the same, like if I kept doing Biwa until it was just an absolute walk in the park? He said, yeah, that's the way to do it. So that's good news, mate. You can get over this.
You can do anything if you put your mind to it.
You can do anything. Listen to this guy over here, Mr. Motivation. Yeah.
I don't know, mate. I think it is...
My friend's a liar, is he?
Exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, and this is a stitch up. We're just trying to get you out on a mountain.
And after I said that, I thought I might say this, that I'm not necessarily scared of heights. We've been in positions where you can, feel I'm just...
Well, you're just scared of falling.
I'm scared of my ability. I'm scared of falling. I'm scared of the fact that I don't know how to handle myself on the edge.
Well, that's what he's saying. Yeah, that's what he's saying. He said, get on a wall in an indoor gym, learn how your body moves, learn how to grip, learn how to reach across and pull your body weight up, build your strength, obviously, and your ability, flexibility.
Yeah.
And add all those things together, and then... I don't know, it was good. I thought it was good. I thought you'd be happy to hear that.
It is a good idea to chip away at that, man.
Yeah, and I figure that the more we get out there, the more and more these places present themselves, and there's been a few times where I've had to turn back for similar reasons, and I think, that hike was such a poignant one because you got, as Josh said in the last podcast, you got 98% of the way to this lookout. 98%. And then you're presented with this precarious scramble. And only the brave get the view.
Yeah.
And I've been thinking about that a lot. And I think I can go back and do it with some help. Especially if I took someone with me who could climb and right in front of my eyes showed me that it's possible.
Yeah.
And talked me through it,
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that. I think a little bit of preparation, I think it would be worth chipping away at that because a lot of occasions, do you remember when we, at the top of that waterfall, I'm thinking O'Reilly's, I'm thinking a time-lapse photo, and I had to jump down that little ledge right on the top of the waterfall edge. You remember that? And
I remember that clearly.
Yeah, so I had to set the tripod up, and in my head, I'm going to land on my feet and tumble forward and fall to my death. Right? It wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
That's positive.
That difficult. But I mean, you had to pull me back up using. I remember I had to lift my arm up and you had to lift me back out of that position. And in my head, I'm like, all right, man, I'm going to fall to my death here. But
Yeah,
I'm
no,
sure
I
it's a
remember
very
that.
simple move, you know.
Yeah. And we've said this about that other place. I said if you recreated that exact scramble in your backyard, 3 foot off the ground, you'd run up it and not use your hands, and you'd laugh at it.
Yep, I'd land with no problem. It's just that cliff was
maybe not you.
Thanks, man. Thanks. I can always count on
Still
you.
trip over.
Yeah. That's what I do.
No, but you're right. Yeah, you wouldn't have a problem because you don't have that psychological battle going on with the, what is it? It's the
Fear.
It's the potential to do the wrong thing that is overpowering you, rather than knowing that you could easily walk up it.
Yeah. Oh, if we can make it easy in our head, it would make a difference.
Well, yeah, it definitely is a mental battle over physical, because physically it's not such a crazy thing. Hey, mate,
What are you showing me here?
I'm showing you this. Somebody sent this to me. I'm still on the news topic. It was an infographic, and it's on a website called riderstrail.com. They sent me this infographic and said, you might be interested in this. And we get a lot of stuff sent our way. Craig, I don't even bother you with some of the requests we get. And I politely decline a lot of stuff because I don't like to sell out. Anyway, this was called 23 Ways Hiking Makes You Healthier, and I thought, that's a lot. Man, that's a lot of ways.
I'm not even that old. So.
If you haven't tried hiking, 23 ways.
23 ways.
I'm not going to go through them all, but there was a couple that I thought were pretty cool. Well, some of them are kind of common sense, but then a lot of this, when I read through, there was actually a bit of research behind it. This one I found interesting. The study shows that people, when exposed to nature for 4 days, does that say 4 days?
Can't see it.
I think it says for 4 days, showed a 50% increase in creativity and problem-solving skills. That's pretty cool.
Cool.
That's a cool statistic. So the title of that bullet point was Hikers Are Creative. I'd have to say that when I return from trips, I'm definitely, I don't know if I'd run around saying I'm feeling more creative, but I definitely feel psychologically refreshed, that I can attack problems and situations with a bit more tact that perhaps I wouldn't have if I was worn down.
Oh, we've always said you look at things differently.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it could be said to be creative, like, because you've got a different perspective on it.
Yeah, that was, thought that one was interesting. Hiking delays aging. That is true, because
Look at us.
I look like I'm about 27. Yeah, so that's a true fact. Actually, if you go to Instagram, you'll agree with me.
Yeah.
Hiking is good for your brain.
Yeah.
Hiking heals. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff where you, it's self-explanatory, but at the same time, I think it's self-explanatory because we've kind of lived it so much. Like this point here, hiking improves sleep quality. Yeah, it does. When you've hiked 21 kilometers, you sleep pretty damn well.
No doubt.
But I think the point of that is that it's not just that night. I think you definitely have, I think any time outdoors tends to extend itself beyond just the trip, if you know what I mean. So yeah, I'm going to put that infographic on in the show notes anyway, because each point that they mention in the infographic, they then go through and talk about in more detail, and they have links to some of the studies. Yeah. Interesting stuff. Look at that, Craig. Lower risk of colon and breast cancer. Lower risk of early death, unless
What were we talking about before?
Yeah, unless you're rock climbing or something.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if I agree with that point.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's pretty cool. What else have I got for you? That's it for news. You got any other news? Oh, did you see... I asked you a question and then I straight away cut you off, which was terrible. Did you see there was a lost hiker on the overland track?
Found today.
Oh, really?
Found alive today.
Found alive. Okay. What was the story?
Saturday he went missing, and it's Tuesday now.
Yeah, that's a long time.
And it's snowing. It's freezing.
Yeah.
He was near Cradle Mountain.
Oh, really? So he'd only gotten that far?
Well, that was what the headline said.
Oh, okay. Then.
But who knows where? I haven't actually read anything. I just saw a little news report today that he was found alive, and he looked in good. He looked pretty good when he was getting walked out of there. So he was walking out of there. So I don't know the story yet. We'll have to look it up.
Well, as you know, from anywhere in that entire region, you're never far from water. So at the very least, he had whatever snacks were in his pack, whatever food, but he probably always have water.
Probably had shelter on his back, as we all do. But I'm just surprised it took that long to locate him. Except
very surprised. Yeah,
we all know the weather's been real bad down there.
I mean, if we're talking clouded in, then I 100% get it. But if we're talking clear skies,
he's not going to get that far from that track, so you wouldn't think so.
And he's going to be wearing bright coloured clothes. Anyway, listen to us experts.
Listen to us.
We've saved so many people with helicopters and stuff,
and we haven't even read the article about what happened.
We don't even know what we're talking about.
There was a guy. Some
guy did something.
He survived,
and we're not happy about it.
No.
Why didn't you get him on Saturday?
We were there. We didn't even get lost, right?
Yeah. Well, I was telling someone about that just yesterday, I think, and what I was saying was, when you're hiking the overland track, it's got to be one of the safest, most clearly defined and clearly marked trails I've ever hiked on in my life. But here's the massive but. The second that gets snow covered, that terrain looks all the same, because the trail can be under 1 or 2 foot of snow. And you think about those big button grass plains and everything
That's probably on, what's happened then.
And you could just walk for a day and just be meandering around. The only reference points you have is, I'd like to say, every 100 to 200 meters, there's a post in the ground with a little orange triangle on it. And they're deliberately sort of about 6 foot high, deliberately, so that when it does get snowed in, you just look point to point and keep following them, and you'll actually be on the proper trail. But at some point, he's wandered off. I don't know. How would I know? Haven't read the article.
Sounds like an interesting article we should read, mate.
Sounds like an article we should read.
But I did hear about it, and somehow he must have been on his own out there, got lost for a few days, managed to survive, so that's lucky. Yeah.
Of course, always glad to hear when a hiker comes back safe, and it keeps reinforcing that. He did have an EPIRB. Again, I haven't read the article. Who knows? Let's not go into details, but get yourself an EPIRB, get yourself good jackets. Make sure you're prepared if you do have to stay an extra night or two. Craig's actually typing into his computer. One-handed. You better hurry up, because I'm just about to move on to the next segment.
All right, move on. We'll come back to this if we have to.
We will? Okay. Craig, it's time for, and I don't even have a new theme song yet, Tom's Mystery Media Mashup.
Sounds good.
It sounds good. All right. I'm so glad we changed it to media again, because I haven't finished a book. I'm reading 2 books simultaneously, or simultaneously, depending on what part of the world you're from, and I haven't finished either one. Let me tell you what I did find, though. This guy has a YouTube channel called Fendabi Dozy. He's from Scotland. and I don't even know how I stumbled across his content, but let me tell you what he does. He will dress up as somebody would have centuries ago, have all of the same clothing made from the same materials, have, you know, the Scottish kilt or their version of it. His bag will be identical to what they might have carried. He'll have an animal skin, everything wrapped up in a bundle. He'll carry food like oats that they would have carried. He has what's it called? A kuski, I think it's called, a one of those wooden mugs. So everything down to his boots, which are just these leather kind of like Peter Pan shoes. And he'll go into the wilderness of Scotland, and it looks freezing cold. And he'll just spend a night or a couple of nights out there and just basically live. What he says at the start of one of his videos is, they say the best way to learn about history is to relive it. And then he just wanders off into this beautiful mountains and stuff. And this guy just goes out there and he just stays the night, like I said, and makes a little fire and everything. And it's just, I don't know what is so addictive about it. It's very peaceful. He doesn't sit there talking. He just lets the video do the talking. It's cool.
I don't know why, but I really want to watch that. So.
Oh man, you will love it. There's 2 videos in particular. I've already started the show notes for this particular episode because I knew I was going to talk about this. So I've got 2 particular videos of his, and he's just a real likable guy. He's got a great name. His name's Tom.
That's what it is.
Seems like a top bloke.
Right.
Yeah, so he does this thing called the Highlander series where he just gets in this garb of hundreds of years ago and just wanders off into the forest. It's really cool.
Yeah, I still don't know why, but I do want to watch it.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter? You just watch it?
It doesn't matter why.
Take it in.
I think it's cool that this guy goes out there. You know, we're running around with $600, $700 tents and stuff, and packs, $400 boots and whatever, and this guy's going out there in leather boots that he's made and a kilt. It's pretty cool. I rate it 100%. Have you got some news there on this guy?
No, nothing more than we already know.
Good job, mate. Craig is on the research. Oh, he's 57.
That must be
that
why.
Changes everything.
He's 57. We didn't know that until now.
Oh, I knew he was old.
Did you?
Oh, sorry, that's not that old.
That's not that old. No, and he was supposed to have turned up at Lake St. Clair on Friday, and he didn't. So that's when they started the search.
Did it say where they found him?
No, it says nothing else. It's ridiculous.
Because, that's not much
That's not
of an
much of an article. There's
we need to get him on the podcast. Tell us what happened. Cool story. Okay, I got another one for you. Oh, this is across. No, I'm going to skip that. This, you got to play this. You go to YouTube.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it.
You go to YouTube and type in.
Excuse me. Sorry, I'm coughing a bit.
Yeah, he's coughing a bit. Just
Can't
type in
stop.
Salomon.
Yep. OMON.
Yep.
TV.
Yeah. Salomon TV. Let's see if I can find this. So
TV.
go to that channel.
Yep.
What I did with this is just pause that. I don't know what that is, but that's a bit odd.
Do you want people to hear this? Should we be recording?
Oh, in a minute.
Let me just start the recording here. Oh, that's not the
Oh,
right
it doesn't
mouse.
matter if it just plays through the speakers, mate.
But it won't unless I pull this out. Do you want it to?
Yeah. Yep, pull it out.
Feel free now to play from your YouTube on the laptop.
Oh, wow. They got a lot of videos. I feel like an idiot now.
Look at all that.
All right. Here it is. Turn that up. Turn the volume up.
We can do that. Yep, turn it up.
And I just want you to watch this. full screen.
Nice. Nice footage.
So good.
Very pretty.
That's brutal.
Yeah, that looks good. Number 5.
Oh, the soundscape and everything.
Very good.
I'll tell you how I came about that that's going to autoplay, man.
I just muted it. Excuse me.
I went back to fix up some of the show notes pages. I knew there was a few bits and pieces I'd missed. On one of the episodes, I think it was episode 13, I mentioned the release of the Salomon Speedcross 5.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought I'll go back and just find a video about the Speedcross 5 just to throw on that show notes. Then I discovered that video last night and cranked it up with my headphones on and just was frothing because it is so epic. It's actually, the cinematography is spectacular. And if you don't want to buy 6 pairs of Salomon after that, I don't know what's wrong with you. So yeah, check it out. I'm going to put that on the show notes. Now, Craig, here's where our Tom's Mystery Media mashup rolls into another segment, because a guy called Glenn's from Belgium, and he sent us a very kind message. So I'm kind of moving into shout outs now. You see what's happening?
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Glenn sent us a really nice message saying, guys, I love the podcast. I'm listening from Belgium. And he said, because I'm always talking about trail running, something which is only a recent addiction of mine. And he said, I'm training for the Eiger Ultra Trail Run. And there's varying, I think there's about 3, maybe 4. I think there's 3 different lengths that you can do. One is somewhere around 16 kilometers, so reasonable, solid. And anyway, Glenn's doing the 51 kilometer. There's also 100. So I thought, I'm going to look up this Eiger Ultra. And I Googled it and I found the website. And I also found this really cool video on their website. It's kind of like a mini documentary. It goes for 4 or 5 minutes. Again, the scenery. So it's in Switzerland. So just to be clear, he's from Belgium, but he's actually traveling to Switzerland to compete. And that is in the next couple of days, literally in 3 days' time, he's going to be competing in the 51K. And I went and looked at the scenery. I know I just said this 2 seconds ago, but it's mind-blowing. It looks like, I don't know, there's crazy peaks and everything. Just in the 51Ks, there's 3 kilometers of elevation up and 3 kilometers of elevation down, just over 51Ks.
Wow.
Think about running 3 kilometers up, but then doing that 3 kilometers down and doing that all over a 51 kilometer span is just mind blowing. Really cool. So I will put that video on as well. Now, let me tell you what else is cool. This is cool. I think people listening say, why would anyone want to ever do that? I'll tell you why. Because you win a rock Well, you get a rock if you finish. I'm pretty sure a finisher's ribbon goes around your neck, and there's a hole drilled through a rock, which I'm assuming they've picked up along the course, and you get this rock on a ribbon.
Okay.
That's just a finisher. Guess what you get if you actually win? You get a hand-forged, old-school, like, ice pick, and they inscribe your name on the top and everything. That's so cool.
Okay, sign me up.
Yeah, it's good. We'll see you there next year. So, yeah, I really wanted to wish Glenn the best of absolute best of luck and safe travels, mate. He was really excited that we dropped another podcast a few days back because he said, "Oh, great! I'll do one more training session and listen to you guys."
Awesome.
So yeah, good on you, mate.
Yeah, sounds
Hang
tough.
in there, run for us.
Go for it.
And one day I might join you because that sounds absolutely fantastic. All right. Let me just continue on the trail running vibe. Justin sent me a message on Facebook and he said, send me one of those caps and I'll wear it on the top of Mount Biwa. So he's from Australia, which is kind of strange because we don't get that many Australians kind of reaching out to us. Anyway, then I was sort of replying to him and he started talking about the trail running and he said he's going to do the Blackall, and the Blackall has a 50 and 100, I believe. So he's going to do the Blackall 50, which is all through the Blackall forest and ranges up there.
Mm-hmm.
You familiar with that area?
Sort of.
Yeah, it's absolutely beautiful, spectacular, and he's trying to talk me into it, and I'm a little bit interested, but it's only a couple of months away, so I'd really have to get myself into gear for that. That sounds pretty cool. So anyway, Justin, I'll hassle you and we'll see if you can get that hat up the top of Mount Biwa, mate.
Sounds good.
Now here's a good one. Sean from Melbourne. I'm sure I've mentioned Sean before. Every now and then he drops this comment, telling us what he likes, and he was saying in a comment that his two favourite... Do you want to try and guess his two favourite episodes? So he's listened to everyone, which I recommend everybody does because that's a really good supporter.
Of course. One of the best supporters we've got, right? Yeah, that's what a good supporter does. I don't know, man. Sorry, I am trying to think. I reckon I'd be on the...
Landscape photographer. Good guess.
No.
Cracking episode. If you're into landscape photography, jump on it. No, it's not. I'm not gonna keep you guessing. One was Leave No Trace.
All right.
And one was What's in the Pack.
Oh, okay.
Possibly the longest podcast we've ever done about what we assumed was the most boring.
It felt derailed at times, but...
Yeah, that was... we went to some dark places in our podcast lives during that.
I recommend you all listen again.
What he said was... yes. Those episodes make him think twice about how he does things outdoors. Oh, that's a pretty cool ethos. I like that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. The other thing he said was that, and some parts I find this hard to believe, he says that the podcast got him through some tough times about a year ago, I think, from memory. And he said listening to us was kind of like therapy, probably very cheap therapy that I wouldn't pay any money for.
Don't pay for that.
But he said, no, don't pay any money for that. That's why the podcast's free. But he did say that listening to us talk about adventures inspired him to, get back into planning his own adventures and getting outdoors. When I hear comments like that, I have this almost, I don't know how to say it, a shock at the influence that we potentially have. And then I have this second wave of consciousness, which is, wow, just to be clear, we don't know what we're doing, everybody. Like it's just our personal findings. It's what we've discovered. It's what works for us. I'm not trying to put a caveat in there. I guess what I'm saying is, if we can reach people like that, and I guess get people thinking about the outdoors in a different way, or I don't know what I'm saying, but I'm just really grateful that we've had the opportunity to positively influence somebody into getting back in the outdoors. Yeah. What's your thoughts on that, Craig?
Yeah, I think if you can just take your own, sort of adventure from us, choose your own adventure, your own path, from our adventures, then why not get something from it?
Yeah, I've always said that this is the what not to do of hiking.
Well, you have said that, and this is the perfect moment to bring that up again when people are possibly listening a bit closely. I'm sure that it's good for you to encourage others to seek their own adventures. Let's just hope that they don't do exactly as we do all the time.
No, do not do this at home. I know he's not. He's cool. He's all good. But there's something else. He said he bought a Grail, which is fantastic. I said, you're not going to regret that.
That's not a bad decision.
No, he said after listening to us talk about it, he researched it and he bought it. And then the next purchase he's going to make, and he must have really good friends because someone said that they would buy one for him, is a PLB, personal locator beacon.
Yeah, they're good.
So I sent him a couple of links to the one I had and the one you've got. Now, this was when you listen to our chat later on with Richard. This will make perfect sense. Sean also said, "Please try and keep Craig off the whiskey."
Right, Sean,
and then he also said, we were talking about personal locator beaters. Locator beaters?
Who's
Sounds
on the
like
whiskey? Hey?
Sounds like something you hit someone with.
Yeah.
Personal locator beacons. And he said, Craig's probably has a bottle opener built into it.
Yeah, that's possible.
What sort of a message are you putting out there, Craig? And, I'm not even going to ruin the surprise of what you do mid-podcast later on with our guest. I'm not even going to ruin the surprise. Keep listening. It's absolute gold. Gold. Comedy and shoes. Listen to this. And to which I replied and said something like, I think there's a little pouch with his lip balm in it as well. And he said, maybe you need to go and do another what's in the pack for everything that he didn't tell us about. Yeah. So that was fun, kind of roasting you without you there. It was pretty cool. Thanks, Sean.
It all makes sense now. Thanks, Sean. Yep. You've got me sussed.
Yeah, totally have. Totally have, because this podcast is only going to get better, Craig. All right. What else have I got on my notes here, mate? You know what? I think I'm about done. Does that mean we can start to introduce, or do you have anything to add?
No, that's good, man. That's good.
Good. Some fun stuff in there. Really good stuff. I'm going to add one more thing. And this should probably have been during the news.
Not more from your mate Sean, is it?
No, yeah, Sean says no. Episode 13, we had Kaz and Chrissy on the show.
Yeah. And
during that podcast, they were telling us about all these crazy adventures. And remember, they told us about that creek that they were camping in. It was more like a canyon. And then the rain came and there was a flash flood. The first one they've ever experienced.
Intense. Yep.
Yeah, it's a pretty scary, kind of the way the story unfolds is pretty scary. Well, Kaz is a fantastic photographer and Chrissy is a great writer. And she wrote an article for, what is it, Wild magazine? I wish I had have written that down. I'll put it in the show notes anyway. But yeah, they've got on their Facebook page, they've got a few photographs of the magazine. So they've got their photographs in there, but if I can try and read like one section to you, if I can zoom in enough. Our concern turns to the possibility of a rockfall from the cliffs above. Then what if it rains? Prior to this trip, my weather research indicated there would be a chance of 6 to 10 millimeters of rain tonight. We had reasoned there would be ample time to sit things out if rocks got slippery and hampered our progress. Then it goes on to say, upstream is a narrow, flat shelf of rock beneath a slightly overhung wall. It offers barely any protection from falling rocks, but it's all we've got. We set ourselves up and sit and wait. Craig finally speaks. Should I do his accent?
Just go for it. Yeah, go on.
Never in my 30 years on rivers did I think or imagine I would see something like this. That was horrible.
Yeah.
A former whitewater rafting guide, Craig has worked on some of Australia's best rivers. It just goes on to talk about that. But yeah, cool story. Awesome story to hear firsthand. And yeah, fantastic to see that they got that published. I'll put some links to that in the show notes. But congrats to them to getting yet another article in the magazine. They really know how to hit that sweet spot.
Yeah.
They're a good duo.
A Wild Land or something, isn't it, right?
A Wild Land is their website, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I still see them come up on my news feed, and it's always nice. It's always nice to see that stuff.
Yeah, their photography's top notch, and the words that go with it are always, either inspiring or really paint a pretty cool picture.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And they're top people as well. Jump on to episode 13.
Mm-hmm.
You won't regret it. Speaking of fantastic guests, I did allude to this, well, I told you outright earlier that we were speaking to British adventurer Richard Mathews. It was a fantastic chat, was it not, Craig?
Absolutely, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, he's a really driven young guy who's just done some absolutely amazing stuff, logistically ridiculous stuff. I'm not going to spoil any of the stories. I'm going to let you listen to it. But do you have anything else to add, Craig, before we let these guys hear it?
Oh, well, we plan adventures with a few people, and we go out into the wilderness and have a fun time. This guy does everything from extreme solo adventures to massive crowdsourced adventures with so many people involved, hundreds of people.
Yeah, big rallies and stuff and the duration of some of these trips are, sort of 9 months or even more in some cases.
So that's what it led us to. Yeah, it's inspirational chat with fantastic bloke. So
yeah, someone. It's just really good to talk to a young person that's so driven and gets so much out of the outdoors and adventure, and is also given a lot back too. So I don't think I have anything else to add, but let's hear it,
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah.
That's smashing.
Oh, you all good?
Yeah, I'm all ready to go.
Ah, good stuff, mate. How you doing?
Yeah, absolute chaos at the minute. Absolute chaos. All over the place.
Is that right? What's happening at the moment?
I'm currently packing to go away for another 2 weeks on a youth-led expedition.
Okay.
Well, sorry, I'm leading a youth-led expedition for the next 2 weeks.
Is that?
I only got back from one.
Is that safe?
Yeah, be alright. Yeah, be alright, be fine.
That's good. Yeah, that's good attitude. Hey, mate, I was reading through your website last night, and the couple of things that were listed there were British adventurer. That made perfect sense to me. Speaker, yeah, that made perfect sense to me. Mental health advocate, no problems there. It was when I got to also a fellow of the Royal Geographical Society. That I thought, what the heck is that?
Yeah, the fellow of the Royal Geographical Society.
What does that mean?
It's basically almost a title. Like it puts FRGS after my name, and it means I'm allowed into the Royal Geographical Society, which has one of the largest geographical collections in the world of geographical and expedition artifacts, really.
Oh, wow.
There's around 16,000 fellows in the world of the Royal Geographical Society, anyway, in London. And yeah, basically it's a really interesting title to basically show that you're advancing geography. And everyone who's a fellow is advancing geography in some way, shape, or form. And geography is obviously such a vast subject that it just makes it's just really interesting in that sense. So my kind of sort of, how can I put it? My input has been that I'm advancing it for young people. So I do a lot of stuff for young people, taking them away on youth expeditions, international expeditions, getting people outside, and as a youth worker as well. So it kind of ties in with other things I'm doing.
Okay.
So yeah, that's what a fellow is. It's pretty interesting, and it's good fun. It's also a really good way of networking because they know a lot of people.
Yeah, I bet. No, that sounds awesome. So are you saying that is there a central location where you've got access to these artifacts or documents, or is it several locations around the world?
No, it's one location in London, and obviously every country has their own geographical society. So there's the Royal Scottish Geographical Society.
Oh, right.
Out in America, there's another one. I think it's the Explorers Chapter or something like that.
Right, but they're not fellows, mate.
Yeah,
you're a fellow.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Now I see the difference. Oh, that's cool. I'm glad I asked about that. That's really awesome.
Hey, it's Craig here, mate. Richard, how you going?
Yeah, bro, Craig, how you, mate?
Yeah, good. Thanks for joining us this evening over here. I know it's about midday where you are. Tell us a little bit about the adventure you just had and what you've come off of and what you've been doing.
Oh, I've been out in Slovenia for a week and a half and kind of just getting back into the mountains, really. It's been a good laugh, really. So it was, in essence, a way of me getting back to do some of the route that I hadn't done previously.
Right.
And so when I did the Slovenian mountain trail last October, I foolishly went in October when all the huts were shut. And being limestone, there was no water anywhere. You can only get it from the huts. So I couldn't do a lot of the high alpine stuff.
Right.
So I decided, you know what? That was solo. This year, I'll come back. I'll bring some friends. Well, anyone who wants to come along, if they're up for it, and go out into the high Alps, start with the first ones I missed, and go from there. And that's what we did. We went out for a week and a half into the Kamnik Slovenia Alps and went up, 2,500 meters up into the Alps. It was good fun, actually. It was really good fun. It was interesting to see people and take people who'd never been to the Alps as well.
Yeah.
Kind of a bit of a shock for them going on Via Ferrata and things like this and going on some really steep ground. And being June, July sort of time, there's still a lot of snow on the ground as well that high up.
Yeah, oh, no doubt there would be. What sort of temperatures are you getting over there at the moment?
Well, in Slovenia, it was actually record-breaking temperatures, and they're having 46 degrees down in the valleys. Up at the tops, it was 23 degrees, I think, on one of the top of the mountains at 2,500, which was just unheard of.
Are you talking Fahrenheit, I'm hoping?
Centigrade.
Centigrade. So did you say they were getting 46?
Yeah, 46 down in the valley. It was record-breaking temperature.
That's right, yeah. That's deadly. Wow,
yeah.
No wonder you needed water.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. I went in October last year, and I was all geared up for winter conditions, like ice axe, crampons, the works, and then it just didn't happen. Didn't see any snow at all.
Wow.
And so you just teed up. You just teed up for some people to just tag along with you that you didn't know too well before the trip. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. That one was aimed more at people who I did know, mainly because of the intensity of going out into the Alps and the route I wanted to do. I kind of wanted to take people who I knew were kind of capable, were kind of in that area, because we were high up. We were on some pretty gnarly stuff.
Yeah, I've seen some of the images, mate, and it's the real deal, mate.
Yeah, it's intense, and quite a few people wanted to come along, and I'm like, look, sorry, I just don't think you're up for it.
Yeah, you'd have to have a bit of a selection criteria for sure, man.
Yeah, you do, and it's horrible to say that I'm sorry you can't come, but at the end of the day, it's
no, I understand that. It's you're putting everyone's safety at jeopardy and the success of the whole trip if you don't have that kind of a strict criteria. And I think there's definitely hikes that I wouldn't do unless I knew the person really well, because of the intensity and the physical requirements, and also for those kind of shit hits the fan moments where you need to have that hard discussion, or you need to make that hard decision, and you need to know that you can have these, I guess, robust conversations with someone without them just having a cry or something.
Did it all go well this time around? It all went well?
Yeah, we did have someone decide to have a 5-meter fall down a mountain, but apart from that, it was all good.
Really? So have they been found yet?
Yeah, no, it wasn't too bad. It could have been very, very bad.
Is that right?
We were very lucky. Yeah, she slipped coming down this, or going traversing across one of the mountains on like a grassy path. Yeah, and she just rolled 5 meters down this, I'd say, 75, 60 degree sort of slope. Yep. And stopped about 5 meters below. If she'd gone another 3 meters, she'd have been in rock scree, and who knows what would have happened then.
Yeah, tumbled or slid down the rock scree.
Yeah, well, she was rolling onto rock scree, and it was getting steeper as well, so I didn't want to think about what could have happened.
Yeah. Jeez. Oh, that's good. Well, that makes for good stories.
Yeah, and I think that was one of two, actually. The other one was when everyone else wanted to go climbing. They had organised to go sport climbing for the day, so I decided to go out on my own. And I went out and did a bit of a big route, and then was coming down some Via Ferrata that was in the process of being refurbished, and got onto it. It was the only way down, and pulled on the cable the first time, and the bolt came out. And I had about 1,000 meters straight down below me on not very much on the side of the mountain. So that was pretty heart-stopping, to say the least.
Jeez.
That's too much for me, mate. Yeah. I prefer to just listen to your stories about that.
So these are only some of many.
Yeah, I bet. Something that I read about this Slovenia trip was, and you did touch on it a minute ago, that it was a return to your roots. Is that essentially where you started to find adventure, was just in hiking itself?
Yeah, it was. Where I live here in Devon, in the UK, we have an event called 10 Tours, which is across Dartmoor. It's aimed at 13 to 18-year-olds. Right. And you have to walk 35, 45, or 55 miles across 2 days across Dartmoor. Now, Dartmoor isn't mountainous. The highest point's like 621 meters. But what it is a giant flat plateau. It's completely featureless. The weather can change in an instant. So you can have like blazing sunshine 1 minute, and the next minute it'll be raining or foggy. Navigationally, it's one of the most difficult places in the UK, in my opinion, to navigate. And there's a reason that the army have a base up there and train all their troops up there.
Yeah, I've read a bit about
that. I started doing that when I was 12, and the first time I did the actual event when I was 13, it was just mad for me. I loved it. I really did, and I'm still involved with it today. And it's been 13 years here and there, and I try and help out where I can when I'm back in the country, really, and give back, because it was so much fun. You learn so much. You get the navigational skills, working with a team, because these young people are out on their own. These 13-year-olds, like there's no adult support. They've got to look after themselves, which
fantastic.
is mad to think, really, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's also amazing. That's great.
And yeah, that's kind of where it started. Alongside that, I was doing kayaking, and I was involved with the Scouts and the Air Cadets, and I just then from there kind of went for it and was like, all right, I'll have a go at everything. So I did some mad things then. I was flying planes on my own at like 17, and just climbing, just about anything I could get my hands onto in terms of the outdoors.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was really it, really, for me, and that was kind of where I felt comfortable, and hopefully it would progress into something.
Yeah, yeah. Is it so? Just if my exceptional math helps me here, does that put you around 26 years old at this current time?
It does, yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah.
How good's that? That's pretty good for me.
How'd you do that?
That was magic.
Yeah.
Okay, mate, you're still a spring chicken in my book, so I can't imagine what sort of crazy stuff. Do you feel a need, whether it's conscious or unconscious, do you feel a need to continually break barriers? Are you trying to think of stuff that's more crazy than the last time you did something?
Yes and no. In some ways, yes, because why not? You can.
Yep.
In other ways, I'm looking at stuff that's different.
Yeah.
So, done lots of big driving trips. They're awesome and I love them, but I want to do something different. I want to do sort of more mountaineering stuff, which is how the Slovenia thing happened. I'm now looking at doing some cycling because I've never done cycling, because it's different. It's not necessarily breaking the boundaries in terms of what everyone else has done.
Yep.
To be honest, what everyone else does, like, crack on, go do you. That's amazing. And in terms of me, I just want to help other people get out there, and kind of all my trips I want to do, I want to be able to take people along in some way, shape or form. Whether that's me going out and recce in a route, or to then take other people in the future, or just doing something completely ridiculous that I'm thinking of planning and doing in the future, which involves 7 islands and the ocean. I don't want to say too much on it because I haven't really shed the light on it, but it's pretty ridiculous.
Fair enough. There's a bit of an exclusive for our listeners right there anyway. I think that'll whet their appetite. No, I like that. That's a good answer, mate. Can I, just putting this kind of picture together, there was mention of, and if you don't mind us delving into this a bit, the anxiety and depression. Now, was that personally your own experiences with that mentioned on your website?
Yeah, it was.
So
it is.
Paint the picture for us. Where does that fit into this timeline? If you're at a young age out and about adventuring and doing all this amazing stuff, at what point in the timeline do we get to a point where something like that happened to you?
It was actually the catalyst to all of it, really. It was before any of my big adventures.
Right.
It was, what, 4 years ago now? Something like that?
Okay.
4 years ago it was, yeah. 4 to 3 years ago.
Right, yeah.
So before any of my big trips, it was after a particularly serious breakup. It was one of those horrendous moments. And from the back of that, it was a case of, you know what, I'm going to do something out there, and I'm going to see if anybody wants to drive to Mongolia with me.
Yeah, that's what I used to do when I broke up with girls.
yeah, absolutely. Everyone does that, right? They
Yeah.
go on really stupid things and drive to Mongolia.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all trying to get to Mongolia eventually.
Yeah, I've got a shirt that says "Get to Mongolia." Now, if that shirt hasn't been made, mate, you need to make that. Put your logo on it.
Get there.
Tell us
It's a
about
standing
that.
joke.
Tell us about the Mongol Rally, mate, because I have got to admit, there's a lot I need to learn about this. I have no idea why or what the purpose is. Can you paint this picture for our listeners?
Absolutely. So the Mongol Rally was set up, 12 years ago, 15 years ago? Don't know exactly. Mid-2000s. And the idea is you take a really crappy car from the UK and drive it to Mongolia. Now the rules are, or when I did it, they change kind of every year. It had to be under 1.2 litres. It had to be at least 10 years old. It had to be under 500 pounds. And that was kind of it.
Yeah.
The start point was Brighton in the southeast.
Yeah, I'm familiar with Brighton, yeah.
And then the finish line was Mongolia, Ulaanbaatar. Well, it was actually Ulan-Ude in Siberia, in Russia, for my year. And there was no route. That was it. That was all the information you was given, and then you had to kind of figure it out. So we ended up going through Iran, Turkmenistan, all these other countries, Afghanistan. We was on the border for Afghanistan for nearly 1,000 kilometers. Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, but being a semi-organized trip, there's loads of other teams. So we actually did about 50% of the entire route with an Australian team. Some really cool guys down in Sydney.
Bastard.
Right? It was terrible.
I'm sure it was.
And there was 4 teams that we kind of stayed with for a lot of it, but it chopped and changed all the time.
Yeah.
Like in Iran, there were 7 teams of Brits, Canadians, and American, because it was very difficult for us to get into Iran, so we kind of all bundled together.
Right. And
yeah, the Mongol Rally is just ridiculous, and people do try and bring Suzuki Jimneys because they're 1.3 4x4s.
Yep.
But the organisers are pretty mad about things, and they sent them away with a fridge painted gold that they had to get to the finish line with. And I don't mean like a little fridge. I mean a fridge freezer tall thing that was sticking out the top of their car.
Was that punishment? Was that punishment for having a 0.1 of a litre over?
No, it's punishment for having a 4-wheel drive and too good a car.
Oh, right. Yeah, and I mean, for driving, anyone who drives a Suzuki should be punished in my books.
I think that's a bit harsh.
Yeah.
I am harsh. I'm harsh when it comes to cars. So the Mongol Rally, why are people doing this? What is it for?
So there's an aspect of raising charity for it as well.
Okay.
And it's just a bit of a madcap adventure. Like, it's just brilliant. It's quite easy. There's no sort of ferry crossings, potentially, apart from leaving the UK. There's just no logistical nightmares. You can just drive to any border and be like, hey, I'm here. Or, you've got to sort out visas in advance for some countries, but it's relatively easy to do. It's just like driving around Europe, and you just keep driving east.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's drawn a lot of attention from that, and the kind of the company that run it have got quite a lot of rep behind it now, and it's getting bigger and bigger. I think it's getting too big, to be fair. And Mongolia is changing visa restrictions from the actual rally. It's making it very hard to get there. I think currently, at the time now, it's $10,000 deposit. That's US dollars.
Wow.
On the border to take a car into Mongolia. Whereas when I did it, I didn't even need a visa. I just rocked up, and they're like, "Hey, cool, yeah, you can come in."
Right.
And now it's getting more and more difficult. Whether there is a correlation or not, I do know Mongolia is getting pretty annoyed with all these cars just being dumped there.
Yeah. So it's a one-way trip, is that right?
No, we still have the car that we did the Mongol Rally in. And in fact, we've done more trips in that car, and it's been upgraded a lot since then. But it's still kicking around.
Nissan Micra? Is that right?
Yeah, we've got 2 of them.
Oh, right.
Yeah. We've got that one, and it's owned by my mate that did the Mongol Rally with me. And then I got my one that I did on another trip, which was even more stupid. They're good fun. They're great little cars.
So how much did you pay for that one that you did the rally with?
I think we paid in total between three of us £225, so 75 quid each.
Wow, that's a bargain. But you obviously didn't pay enough to get a set of keys.
No, that was a bit annoying.
Tell us how that panned out. Did you know about that before you handed over the cash?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay, good. All right, stupid question. And how did you get around not having a set of keys for, I don't know how many days or weeks?
It was only about a week. And what it was is, because we were doing it with a charity aspect, and we were raising money for Teenage Cancer Trust, we were hoping that, it would be charity. We were a bit naive about things like, someone would just give us some keys, it'd be fine. This time to get behind us, it'll be all right, they'll sort us out. They didn't. We ended up forking out, I think it was 280 quid for the keys in the end, which was ridiculous.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I've had to get a set of keys cut once, and that is a painful experience. Good story, though. So, did that, what sort of breakdowns did you encounter with that first car?
Let's see. So, we broke a lot of shocks.
Oh, really?
Shock
rough roads and
yeah.
Stuff, yep.
No roads at all.
Oh,
driving
wow.
through sand, driving through rock falls, rivers, all sorts. Let's see, what else did we break? The gearbox had an oil leak that we had to get fixed up, and we snapped the exhaust. Oh, and we lost third gear, which was really annoying, because we may have overloaded the car quite significantly, and when you're trying to go from second to fourth and doing 50 mile an hour in a second in a car that weighs 1.5 tons, it's quite
That's
stupid.
it's a big jump to fourth for a little car like that too. So
Yeah, it is.
Is there an actual winner of these events, or is it just about everybody getting to the end?
So for this company, no. About a third of the cars make it.
Oh, wow.
Quite a lot of them break down,
Oh, is
blow
that
up.
right?
One caught on fire, just completely blew up in Turkmenistan when I was doing it. Yeah, it's pretty gnarly.
So hence
Yeah,
the
there's
reason
no
that
winner.
you didn't mind helping other teams and traveling together in groups and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, fantastic. And from what I read, that led to your next big adventure, the
Yes.
Global Convoy Expedition.
Yes, that's the one.
Yeah.
So that one was, this one was actually made whilst me and a guy that I met on the Mongol Rally were drinking vodka in Moscow, because that's the best place to start any adventure, right?
Yeah, and it's the best
And-
place to make really important decisions whilst under the influence.
Yeah, basically we were saying that the cars have done this well, they're still in good shape, why can't they go further? And that was it really. We were like, right, okay, we'll buy some equally crappy cars a year later and just see how far we can get them around the world. And I bought another Micra for £150 this time, and it caused me all sorts of problems. And then we bought a Skoda for 75 quid that was kind of a barn find, and it was fine, really. There's nothing wrong with it. But instead of the company sorting out this sort of stuff and kind of giving us a route, we kind of doing it on our own. So we had to sort out all the logistics, all the shipping this time, which is just a kind of a whole other world. It's absolutely ridiculous, to be fair. And
that is something that I really wanted to talk to you about, because I can't even fathom the logistics of moving yourselves around to all those countries, let alone a vehicle and all of your gear.
Yeah, it's something I would never recommend to anyone, really.
Craig, cross that off the list, mate. I'm happy you said that.
Yeah, we can.
The problem is. Oh, go on.
I was going to say we can drive for hours and hours in any direction in Australia and not have to, have a passport or anything. And,
Yeah, well, that's true.
It must be difficult to organise that.
Yeah, I mean, you drive for hours and don't see anything, do you?
Pretty much.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah. Oh, it depends where you are, mate. I think there's a. Have you ever been over here yet?
I haven't. No, it's on the list.
Oh, move it up near the top. It's vast, but I would think that, we'll put it this way, when we first started our Instagram account, people were commenting on how they couldn't believe that these photos we were putting up were of Australia. So many people commented when we were putting up rainforest and waterfall pictures and mountains and all this sort of stuff. They were just blown away that we weren't just posting pictures of deserts with kangaroos going past. So it's probably a bit of a misconception. Having said that, whenever I drive down my street, kangaroos do jump across the road.
Yeah, that's true.
That's actually true. But it's you need to find a way of getting a in Australia we don't call, what did you say, that crappy cars? In Australia we call them shit boxes.
Yeah.
So I've heard that.
Yeah, so you need to get some kind of a rally over here with a shit box car and drive it across the Nullarbor or something.
Yeah, we got something like that, man.
Do.
I was just about to Google. What is that?
Craig's got a really shit car.
It's called the Shitbox Rally.
Shitbox Rally, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, I have heard that. Craig, your car would get in there.
Yeah. I was just about to Google and say, in Australia, we must have the Shitbox Rally.
Yeah, because they need to be under a certain horsepower too. Sorry, Richard, it's a bit of an inside joke.
Not having a horse, just pulling it then.
Yeah. He drives a Jeep, mate,
no,
so I'm a little bit harsh on him.
It is very harsh. Yeah. Anyway, look, I did have a very big look at your website, and it looks like you guys were making shit up as you went along with a lot of your the convoy rally and stuff like that. So you must be proud that you made it to the end, and everyone. I assume everyone survived, and I think we look to you as someone who's able to go to the next level with your adventures and get some crazy kind of level of involvement with other people, and we're impressed. I think it looks really cool. So yeah, good on you.
Yeah, thanks, man. I mean, the convoy was just absolute carnage. We planned our shipping across from Russia to Canada and then had no idea. We're making it up as we went.
Wow.
And that caused problem after problem in many aspects. Not alone with people, because we had over 100 people from 33 different countries come along. We had an Australian actually do most of the trip with us.
Yeah, right.
And
so obviously why it was successful, no doubt.
Probably, yeah.
Hang on, it brings me to another question. So you're talking about a vehicle from. So this again was one of your vehicles from the UK, and then that vehicle's arrived in Canada. I'm assuming off a ship or something. Yep.
Yeah, in Vancouver.
So at that point, how do you go about getting that vehicle legal to drive in Canada or any other place for that matter?
Lots of paperwork is the answer, really.
Yeah.
It's basically a combination of insurance, temporary importation. There's just so many different things. And in Canada and America, actually, America is one of the hardest places to do it. It took 17 of us working more or less round the clock, phoning people up to find insurance, and it took us 3 weeks.
Wow.
And the only loophole we could find was that one of the guys in the trip was American, and he got insured to drive any vehicle and then insured someone else to drive any vehicle. So the vehicles technically weren't even insured. They were just in this kind of interesting, weird sort of insurance thing.
Right.
It was ridiculous. And I mean, some countries don't even require insurance. Like when I went to Kyrgyzstan the first time, didn't need it. It just wasn't required by law. You just did whatever you want, basically.
Wow.
In terms of that.
So you got
But then some countries...
you would be... your car's the same as Australian, aren't they? We have the steering wheel on the right-hand side of the vehicle.
Yep.
Yep. So when you made it to the States, you were driving a right-hand steering vehicle on the right-hand side of the road, yeah?
Oh, we had been the entire time. Like, since we left the UK, we hadn't... That's how we'd been going, yeah.
Oh, right. Wow. How's that go?
That's all right. Overtaking becomes interesting.
I bet it does, because you can't see anything. Yeah, gee, that's a really good point. You're so used to kind of, putting your head right over to the side before you overtake someone.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really interesting. Do you have any other kind of standout traffic sort of situations that you weren't anticipating?
Costa Rica.
Yep.
So Costa Rica had been experiencing a huge import of right-hand drive vehicles on left-hand drive roads from Japan. So they banned all of them as we were going there. And then Nicaragua was kind of following suit. So we got to Honduras and crap. How the hell are we going to get to South America? All the shipping goes from Panama because it's the shortest route.
Wow.
Now stuck in the ex-murder capital of the world. How on earth do we get out of this situation?
What happened?
We ended up finding a guy who knew a guy who knew a guy who worked in the port, and he kind of sorted us out with this shipping, and it was meant to take 7 days, something like that. Oh no, the crossing was 3 days. And we literally dropped the cars off at the port, done all the paperwork. I have a handwritten stamp because the passport office was closed, and this guy just writ it out for us. You're very kind of him. And then we jumped on a plane to go to Colombia. We packed up, chucked all our gear in the car. It was all good and all sorted. We had about a week's worth of things with us: clothes, cameras, things like that. All the more expensive stuff. And then, we just went in Colombia. We'd arranged with a hostel to go and do some work for them and things. So we were sorted for a week. So that's all good. Get an email from the shippers in Honduras. Sorry, the ship hasn't left yet. You got to pay an extra $2,000.
Whoa.
And then it goes on. And then the cars finally turned up 21 days later.
What?
It was just madness.
Wow.
Absolute madness.
Do you think that was potentially a deliberate play on their part to milk a bit more cash?
Potentially, but also Colombia has some of the strictest import laws in the world.
Oh, I see.
So
I wonder why that is.
It could. I don't know. So it took us 3 days just to get the cars out of the port, and that was with me, with all the paperwork, with one of the gents who had been on the trip, a good friend of mine, and he's Portuguese, so his Spanish was really good.
Yep.
At this point, my Spanish is all right, and then there's the other gentleman who's organising the whole thing with me, and we're just running around the ports trying to get all this paperwork done. And that's how it was with all the shippings. They just got steadily worse. And the worst thing about this entire situation is I was at a point where I had actually run out of money, and I basically couldn't eat. I just wasn't eating for 3 days, for 3 weeks nearly. I was having rice and sort of a couple eggs here and there. So I wasn't in particularly good shape to do anything. Yeah. And then it was 46 and 100% humidity, so it was just horrendous in every way. So, it was a really tough time, that was. It really was.
And in hindsight, can you pinpoint those kind of errors? Would you say that they're planning and logistics, or were they just you just being naive, or was it just complete stupidity? Can you frame that up for us?
All of the above.
All of the above. Good. Did you think it was going to be easier?
Yes.
You
Yeah,
did?
a lot easier. Yeah.
Right.
Well, the Russian shipping was so easy. Like, we rocked up, we gave the guy the money, we drove the cars into the containers that evening after they got washed, and we took our things out, and that was it.
Right.
Job done.
Yeah, right.
And it was only in Canada we had all sorts of issues. And it was the same in Uruguay. So after the Colombia experience, we're like, right, that's it. Let's plan this. Let's get this sorted. Let's have it all set in motion, ready for when we get there, and it'd be good. And it was. We got to Uruguay. The cars went onto the ship, onto the container. We drove them in again. No worries. And then we had problems in Hamburg, getting them back into the UK.
Right.
That one was kind of our fault, kind of not. Because they're UK registered cars, they're part of the European Union, and because of the permit we put them on to get through customs was basically a transfer back to the UK.
Right.
So we couldn't clear them through customs in the UK because we didn't have this document. But then we also couldn't drive them on the road in Europe anyway because we didn't have an MOT or like a yearly check and insurance on them.
Right, right.
So then we were kind of scuppered because then they were going to charge us €1,000 a day for storage.
Oh, wow.
While all this was happening, I don't know if you guys came across the Hamburg riots for the G20 summit.
Yeah, I vaguely remember those, yeah.
That was happening at the exact same time.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So the port was then blockaded. It was just nuts. So we ended up, I was actually in Hamburg. Everyone else was in the UK trying to sort it out from that end.
Yep.
I flew back to the UK. We hired transporters and then drove from the UK to Hamburg, picked them up, cleared them through UK customs at like 4 a.m, and then got them back to the UK. And we did all that in like 56 hours because it was just mad, everything that was going on. And I think it's just nuts. The shipping is just so painful.
There's a common thread that comes through a lot of your stories, mate, and it's that I don't know how to articulate it, to be honest. There's not so much that you never give up, more about your creative in your solutions. That seems to have done you pretty well in some of these trips. Yeah,
I would say that. Some of the solutions we've got for some things have been outright ridiculous.
Yeah. And how many countries did that convoy take you across? Do you remember?
Me or the car?
Good question. Let's say the car. Let's start with the car.
The car did 42.
What? That's insane. And was that roughly drawing? I mean, I watched the video, and I think it must be. I think it was another English guy. I think it must be a mate of yours that went on the trip with you. He made some comment about that. That you kind of got a map and roughly drew a line around and said, "Well, that's kind of where we'll pass through." Was that fairly accurate on the limit of your planning there?
Yeah, at the start that was pretty accurate. Yeah.
Are you still friends with this guy? Do you still talk?
Weirdly, I'm not actually involved with the Global Convoy in any way anymore. I left last March.
So is it still? Is it the same car is still moving around? Is that the story? Or?
No, so what happened was we came back and we'd organised to go to a load of shows. We did a load of talks about the trip. We took the cars there. We just generally showing off what we'd done.
Yep.
Then we went up and made a documentary. And it was a feature-length documentary. It got onto a few festivals. I don't know. I still haven't seen the whole thing. And yeah, it was then a case of creative differences, and what they wanted to achieve and what I wanted to achieve was kind of different. And we were on the verge of getting a deal with like a big TV company to drive a double-decker bus around the world.
Right.
And that was when I decided to leave and kind of go back and pursue my own stuff.
Right.
And kind of get back on and doing my own things. So, yeah, we still chat, and we still,
Yeah.
here and there, and crack on.
Do you think
I
that
very,
was
very much supportive of that?
Yeah. Do you think that was or if you don't mind talking about that, do you think that was moving into too much of a commercial space for you, or did it encroach on your original reasoning behind doing these adventures? What was your decision to not continue?
It was, for me, wasn't moving into a commercial aspect in it itself. So I'd actually been working on my own stuff and doing guiding and outdoor stuff in the past for a few years. And I was saying, look, we've got something here. We could go lead groups on all these trips and do things like this. And at the time, they weren't very interested in pushing it that hard, which is, it's fair enough. We just come back, And it was more of a case of I wanted to go out and kind of make a difference and work in youth work and work in the mountains and the outdoor ed.
Yep.
Whereas they wanted to keep going with the cars, keep driving and keep partying and having a good time, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, I get both sides of that. Yeah.
And that's just not me all the time.
Yeah. I did see a lot of the stuff I read on your website. You most definitely put a lot of time into giving back, which I think is admirable. But at the same time, it must be quite fulfilling for yourself.
Yeah, it is. It's amazing to see people going on their own trips and kind of stepping out and kind of breaking past the fear, because that's what a lot of people get held back by is the fear of what will happen if it doesn't go right, if it all goes wrong. Yeah. I know that's where I was. I was terrified to go on the Mongol Rally and quit my job. It was one of the hardest things I did up to that point.
Yeah.
But it worked out. In fact, I came back and got an even better job.
Well, you're definitely a more worldly person.
Yeah, and I think the world's something that needs to be seen. I'm very much a strong advocate of people are amazing. The amount of good people in the world is far outweighs the amount of bad people.
Yeah.
It seems like you really love encouraging people to get out of their comfort zone and kind of find what it is that makes them happy and lead themselves to some sort of personal salvation, or I don't know. I'm trying to read between the lines of how you do love helping or encouraging people to come along and you want them to see what you see and really kind of, I don't know, lift themselves up to a new level of adventure. Do you think that they get so much from that, or is it something that you get a lot out of from helping other people? I
think it's a bit of both, really. I think people need to see the world. I think it's very important to actually understand what's going on in countries. Like in Iran, the people of Iran are amazing. Government, I don't know. But the people, the friendliest people and the most hospitable people I've ever met.
Right.
It's one of the safest countries I've ever been in. The amount of bad press that the people have is just not right.
Yeah, my experience.
And I think.
Sorry, mate. My experience I lived in Japan for a year and a half, and there's a massive. Well, at the time, I don't know if it's still the case, but at the time there was a massive influx of people from Iran. I don't know why. I still don't know why to this day, whether there was a loophole that made it easy for them to get in. But long story short, there'd be particular places where they'd hang out, and you'd go through and they'd all be so friendly and chatty. I had a couple of guys that I'd regularly run into on the same train when I was heading home after work. And what was hilarious about it was the only language we could both speak was Japanese. So to any Japanese people there was an Australian and an Iranian standing there or sitting there and speaking horrible Japanese to each other. Oh no, they were just ridiculously. Did you hear that sound?
Sorry.
Craig tried to discreetly crack a beer in the middle of the podcast. Richard, I apologise. He's so rude, mate. He's got. I actually had somebody on Facebook say, try and keep Craig away from the whiskey.
Oh, you did not.
I did so, and I'll talk to you about that later.
Oh, as if.
I did. I had a guy that listens to the podcast say, try and keep Craig away from the whiskey. So just so you know what I'm dealing with here, Richard.
Oh, God.
Really, heck. It's chaotic in there.
It is.
Yeah, it's full on, mate.
It's tough on both sides of the table here, I tell you.
It's only midday and you're drinking.
Not exactly.
Sorry about that interruption. I can't remember. We were talking about the lovely people from Iran.
Yeah, well, it's not just Iran. It's just everywhere in general.
Yep.
People everywhere are pretty amazing. I mean, when I was in Japan, we'd split up and we were hitchhiking through Japan. And the amount of incredible people that we met there was just out of this world.
Yes, I think for the average person, and I'm going to, make a stereotypical comment here. I think for the average person, no, it's all good. I say stupid things all the time on this podcast.
Never.
Which is why nobody lets me be a guest on theirs. I have to have my own. And I'd say that the majority of people would say, well, that kind of makes sense to me, right? I understand that you go to Japan and people are friendly, but it's the countries that they don't have that exposure to, and the countries that they're constantly getting bombarded in the media, and it's negativity, it's danger, it's war, it's negativity, it's danger. And for you to say a comment that you just made a minute ago about how many good people there are is, I think that little soundbite itself speaks absolute volumes. Like that, to me, is what people need to get out of this entire podcast right now. We just need to play him that one line and say, Richard's been everywhere. There's a lot of good people. Get it through your heads.
Mm.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I haven't been everywhere, but there are so many good people everywhere. Like, if you're in any situation, there will be someone who will help you out, no matter what the case is, which is why we should all help each other out, no matter what is going on, and because eventually it will come back to help us.
Yeah,
and that's how it should work. Like, here in the UK, every time I see someone who's hitchhiking, I always try and pick them up because so many people have helped me out in the past.
Yep.
And I think that's the thing. We need to stop seeing places in the world as this and that, and kind of buying into what the media is telling us, and actually look at it a bit closer. Yeah, take what the media is saying, definitely, but that's not everyone.
No.
It's the case with everything, every group, isn't it? There's always the certain individuals in whatever group it may be that are getting and showcasing that group as this, when it's not the case.
Well, I don't think it's a good news headline to say that British adventurer, travels through Mongolia and has fantastic time and gets free dinner from people in a yurt or something. You know what I mean? It's not about bad stuff, and it doesn't sell that well. I'm assuming.
Absolutely, and that's the thing, isn't it? It doesn't sell, and that's the thing, there, isn't it? I wonder if they'd like the title though. British adventurer nearly dies falling off roof rack off in canyon
Much
on
better.
Afghanistan border. I wonder if that would sell.
Yeah, that'd probably sell. I think it would be better placed if it was fellow of the Royal Geographical Society falls off roof racks. Just
maybe not. They'll be questioning why they're on a roof rack to begin with.
Oh, great stuff. Hey, just speaking about that safety aspect, and I don't want to go straight from saying, wow, it's so nice that everyone was great, but I will jump to, are there any kind of hairy moments where you you were concerned about your safety, and it doesn't have to be with other people. It could be, just for weather and all sorts of things like that.
Oh yeah, definitely. There's been countless times where, I got swept into the Pacific Ocean, nearly fell off a roof rag. I genuinely nearly died quite a few times, and I isn't just like me saying it and exaggerating the situations. Some of them were pretty like, oh my god, that could have ended very, very badly.
Yep.
And in terms of safety from other people, not much. There was a few sort of shootings we heard in Guatemala. Wasn't aimed at us in particular. It's fine there. In Slovenia, I think Slovenia was kind of one of the biggest ones, but that's because I was on my own. And I think being on your own, and when you're on your own for quite a few days out in the mountains, you kind of start going into your head, and you kind of look at things in a much different way. And
I'm glad you touched on that, because that's something on my list was to discuss the solo hiking aspect of your adventures with you.
Yeah, and it's a different aspect. I mean, the whole reason, it was meant to be a shared one actually, until about 2 days before, the person that I was going to go with, they backed out on me. So I was like, you know what, stuff it, I'll just go anyway, see what happens.
Yep.
And it was great the first week. The next 2 weeks were actually horrendous, and there was a point where I just broke down really. And it is a video clip. I filmed it, and it's kicking around.
Yeah.
And basically describing how I wanted to quit, wanted to leave the mountains, wanted to just get out of there. I just wanted to get home.
Yep.
It was turning from solitude to loneliness, and it was just horrendous. It was the worst thing ever at the point. It was just so bad. And
was that, did that end up being the end of the trip, or did you continue beyond that?
Well, I did. I went on a little bit more. Now, I'm very much someone who doesn't believe in coincidences, or didn't believe in coincidences until that point, really. Around 6 hours later of walking, I actually ran into 2 Canadians, an Australian, a German, a Moroccan, and a Slovenian who had come up from Bled to just climb a mountain. And these are the first native English speakers that I'd seen in around 2.5 weeks.
Yep. And
3 weeks' time. I don't want to say that it was a coincidence that I'm having this mental breakdown in the morning, then met these people in the afternoon. I don't know. But I think if I hadn't met them, it probably might have been the end of the trip.
Yeah. Did that just kind of fill up the tank for, I guess, human contact? Did you continue on your own after that, or with them?
I did, actually. So they kind of learned about what I was doing, and basically, in a way, kidnapped me and said that I was staying at the hostel with them. Okay, come back. Yeah, look, you're coming with us. You're going to stay in a bed tonight, and we're going to cook you food. I'm like, all right. You know what? Stuff it. I'll do that. I need that right now. I stayed there for a day, and we went out and did another little walk, and we was just chatting and kind of, as you do, you're just messing around, having a bit of banter. And then they actually dropped me off. They drove me further up the route, and then I carried on for another two days, and then had to leave the mountains because the weather just got so bad. To the point where the Slovenian government was saying that do not go outside unless you have a need to. So I went outside and carried on walking down out of the mountains, and was dodging bits of roof and bits of building in the rain.
And that was solo the last couple of days?
Yeah, well, from there, then I went back to the hostel back with the guys again, because I kind of done a big loop around them.
Right.
And then when the storm passed 2 days later, I carried on. I caught another bus back to where I'd roughly finished off, and went back and then did another, week alone. But at this point, it was now with a new challenge. The challenge had been to complete the trail. Now it was a case of complete as much as possible and get home to work on the next thing.
Yeah, right.
And because you start thinking about all manner of things when you're on your own. I didn't have music with me purposely to think about these things.
Yeah,
And
that's the way to do it.
It was just, yeah, definitely, and it was just mad, really. And I came to a lot of realizations, a lot of thoughts, and kind of actually realized where I wanted to go with life, what I wanted to do, and kind of what I wanted to achieve, really.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I'm so glad you stuck it out. I was hoping you were going to say that you did. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, it was pretty mad towards the end. I was pushing very hard. I think the last day I did 42 kilometers.
Whoa.
Something like
That's
that. Was it?
That's a big
day.
day.
No, it's 56.
Oh, what?
56 kilometers.
Wow.
The second to last day was 42 kilometers.
Wow.
Jeez.
Yeah, you did push hard. That sounds like a 15-hour day.
Yeah.
Yeah, started at 6, finished around 8.
Wow.
I was pushing sort of 6 kilometers an hour at some points.
Your caloric intake must have been off the scales.
Yeah, well, the terrain had changed. It wasn't so much mountainous anymore.
Okay.
And I'd also lost a little bit of weight. I'd lost all my crampons and ice axe and stuff, so I was carrying less.
Right.
And I'd been walking for nearly 3 weeks at this point. So
when you say lost, you left them, or you actually fell off a cliff and dropped them off?
No, I had the good fortune of running into an Italian in a small town called Idria, and he offered to host me when I got to his city, which was more or less at the finish point. So he took a load of my gear and went back to his with it, and then I met him about a week and a half later, and then stayed with him for a week, and he took me around the city, and we explored. I think it's Trieste. Yeah, really cool guy. Really cool guy.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a good end to the trip as well.
Yeah. It's just a shame I didn't do all of it.
Yeah.
That annoyed me.
Yeah. I don't think you should be too hard on yourself. It sounds to me like you could have pulled out a couple of weeks earlier, and that would have, I think that would have eaten you up too, in hindsight.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of people, Craig and I have done a fair bit of solo stuff, nothing in the duration of your trips. I think the longest I've done solo is 3 days. But I did an 8-day trip, but I bumped into other people on the trail, so I don't really consider it 100% solo. But then I've done a 3-day canoe trip where I didn't see another human being, and I didn't have cell phone coverage, and I was 40-something kilometers from the nearest person. So I don't know, it depends which way you want to say it. But either way, my point is we talk a little bit about those, and so many of our listeners are hassling us to do a specific podcast just around solo hiking and, just every aspect of it. But it's been really, really interesting to hear your take on it, because I think what you went through there is what I know I've definitely been through on a smaller scale of that. What the hell am I doing here? Why did I do this? And that urge to want to go back to other people and have conversations and not be alone and with your own thoughts. It feels so foreign.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, at the end of the day, we are a species of community, aren't we? Our entire society is based on being around other people. Yeah. So when you take that out of the equation, it becomes entirely foreign. It's something different, and like you just said, I think, and you experience, like it really makes you think, doesn't it? Like you start thinking, oh my God, what on earth? Like, why am I doing this?
The things that swirl around in your head are just beyond comprehension. Like something that you'd never have the time to put thought into on a day-to-day basis. It's really strange.
Mm.
Yeah, definitely.
I can see why so many, societies around the world, especially primitive ones, will send people out for days or weeks on their own to kind of be with themselves and support themselves, because I think the learning curve is massive.
Yeah, I think it is. I think solo travel is kind of almost the pinnacle of that in more modern society, isn't it?
Yeah.
Of going out, experiencing new cultures and being on your own, but not necessarily on your own, being around other people.
Yeah. There's still a massive element of being out of your comfort zone, especially once you start crossing language barriers. That's where it gets real tricky.
Yeah, it gets really fun as well.
It does.
Kind of
Are you amazed at how
describe
much you can convey with just smiling and laughing and making hand gestures and pointing?
Oh, it's amazing. You can get away with so much, like explaining there's a vehicle broken down 5 miles up the road. Just,
Yeah.
What's give us some? I'm just going to throw a few questions at you. What was the strangest place or the most memorable place where you ate dinner?
Ate dinner
In any of your trips?
Does it have to be?
Say a meal. What was the strangest meal you shared somewhere along your travels?
Ooh, that's a difficult one. There's two that instantly pops in my head.
Yeah, good. Let's have them.
So one is in Kyrgyzstan.
Okay.
And it's Uzbekistan. Where was it? I can't remember the name of the city now. Oh, that's going to annoy me. Anyway, we rocked up to this city at 4 a.m., having been driving all night to get there. And we were told that breakfast was at 8, and we all basically got in and just passed out. We were exhausted. We had a knock at the door around 11 o'clock to say that our breakfast was ready, and it was down in the main room. Right, okay. We go down, and we have this sort of, a continental sort of some meats, some cheeses, some fruits. And then that was the first course. Then something similar, only more of, came out for the second course. And then some eggs, and then more sort of like a soup dish came out. And then it just kept coming. We ended up having a 5-course breakfast, and it was absolutely surreal.
That sounds good.
Totally needed.
Yeah. Do you think there was a communication breakdown there where you were meant to tell them to stop at some point?
Oh, no, they just kept bringing it. Like it was one of the most incredible breakfasts I think I've ever had. It was fantastic. And the other one was out in Slovenia, and I had run out of water, and I was bombing it down a Via Ferrata, getting to a lower hut.
Sorry, mate. Can you just explain that terminology for our listeners, please?
Yeah, sure. A Via Ferrata is Italian for iron road, and it's from the First World War, and it's what they used to transport troops around through the mountains. And you basically have a harness and 2 carabiners attached to you, and then in the wall, people have gone up and bolted in a steel cable, and you kind of attach yourself to it. And it's there for protection, really. So if you fall, you're not going to actually fall. You're just going to kind of come off the rail a bit.
Yep.
So I was kind of coming down one of those pretty fast, and they're slow going because the bolts go in kind of every few meters or so. So I wasn't even clipping in coming down this thing. I was just walking down it and holding on. And it wasn't that bad. The path was kind of carved out. It was stepped like. It wasn't too bad. And I get to the hut, and I tell the guy what I'm doing, and the hut's open. I wasn't expecting it to be. And get chatting to him and tell him where I'm going to go, and he's like, nah, that hut's shut. You can't go anywhere. Look, I tell you what, unload my gondola full of beer, and you can stay here tonight for free. Mm-hmm. All right, done. I'll take a bed. Mm-hmm. Sounds great. And then the night progressed, and he's like, here, have a beer. Have a couple of beers. And then he just asked me, do you like steak? Yes. Yes, I love stage. So then I sit with this hut owner at about 8 o'clock at night, and we just have steak and eggs. And then he proceeds to
just like
get
home.
me behind the bar. Yeah, just behind the bar. He's like, yeah, do you mind doing the washing? I'm in the kitchen doing the washing. And then we have some wine. And then he pulls out this home-brewed Croatian beer that you open into a bowl and then lays it out into your glass. Like, God, now I woke up with a hangover the next day. Like, blimey heck, man. Like, what was going on?
Oh, but I bet that tasted so good, man.
Yeah, it did. Beat my pasta any day.
Yeah.
See, these are the things that people don't experience sitting on their couch.
Totally.
No, they really don't.
And I mean, if you want to take that further, you couldn't even plan that.
No, absolutely not. It was just completely spontaneous, completely just happened to be in the right place at the right time and seem okay to the right person.
Wow. And again, that ties back into your point earlier where there's so many good people out there that just want to help you along.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, that's
Yeah. But,
crazy stuff, mate. You sound like it's like talking to a 60-year-old man about all of his adventures, his lifelong adventures, mate. And you're just at the tip of the iceberg by the sounds of it.
Just getting started.
yeah, I mean, I've only been traveling internationally for 5 years. So I left the country for the first time properly when I was 21.
Incredible.
So
Before
you can do a lot.
Yeah. Before I ask you what's next, I think we need to backtrack a bit, and you need to unpack this falling off the roof racks or almost falling off the roof rack story.
Which time?
Oh, okay. I don't know, one or
And which
two of the
country?
most memorable ones. I guess the one you were referring to earlier in the podcast.
Yes. So the one I was referring to earlier was in Tajikistan, and the roads were so horrendously bad that we just couldn't see anything. So I opted to sit on the roof with a radio and was basically telling the driver of the cars which way to go to avoid rocks and things through the sand. And yeah, so I spent around 5 days stuck on the roof rack of this car, of the Micra, just directing people, getting covered in sand. But
Wow.
being up there was absolutely amazing. It's like nothing else because you're much higher up. Your vantage point is incredible. You have no car around you. You're feeling all the sand, the heat, the wind as it comes by, and then you get to see things like wolves and that the others can't. And it was just mad until we kind of got back onto the main road. And I thought it would be a brilliant idea to stand on top of the roof rack whilst I was doing 50 miles an hour, holding on to 2 bits of rope onto the roof rack. That was a really dumb idea.
Yeah, that I don't know how that could have gone wrong.
No, it's not like there were any cliffs around or anything. Like, it was fine, really, and it's not like we were in the middle of more or less nowhere and kind of very far out, very remote. It could have gone very badly wrong.
Yeah.
And then that became a kind of a bit of a thing, really. I just loved being up on the roof.
Yeah.
And we kind of took it a step further in Mongolia.
A step further.
We were all
than
very...
that.
Yeah, way further.
All right. Do tell.
So me and my mate were in the car, and everyone else was kind of car sharing and stuff. And he had just jumped from one roof rack to the other roof rack of all the vehicles, scaring the bejesus out of everyone, which was hilarious for myself.
Yeah.
And we kind of got back in the Micra and we thought, you know what? How fun would it be to see how fast we could get around the car? So the passenger gets out of the passenger seats, climbs out the window, goes across the bonnet, climbs in the driver's window, and then takes over driving the car. While that's happening, the driver gets out and jumps over into the passenger seat.
Right.
Now, we did this a few times. It's all right. We did it at 30 miles an hour and things. And then it got to a point where I was on the driver's window. My mate was still in the passenger's window. So nobody was driving the car. And somebody did a handbrake turn right in front of us.
Ooh.
So I started steering the car with my foot as we were trying to avoid them whilst not going down. It was about 8 foot. Sort of dip to the left. So we decided to stop doing that because it was a bit silly. And I don't recommend anybody does it, really. It's absolutely madness and stupid.
You were saying earlier that you didn't really believe in coincidences, but do you believe in luck?
Yes. Yes, I do.
Right.
Yeah.
You think that you being able to talk to us today has probably got a bit of luck involved in it?
Yeah. I mean, you nearly missed me. I'm meant to be packing for another trip, which I'm leaving for in about 2 hours. So. Oh,
wow. Gee, I'm very grateful for you giving us so much time, considering you need to be getting out of there.
Jeez.
And it's all good fun.
I did have another. Where was my other question? Oh, yeah. Well, I do want to know what's next. Apart from, I mean, what's this? Is this a smaller trip that you're about to leave on now?
Yeah, so this one is actually UK based, and I'm taking, I don't actually know how many, I need to find out, up to 100 young people on a 4 week sort of training. We've got outdoor education sort of week, and then we're in the university for a week, and we're sort of learning new skills with the young people, and then they kind of build their own social action project, and then actually lead that and run it themselves. It's not any input from us. So that's kind of the next 2 weeks. And I'm doing it again later in August.
Oh, wow.
That's currently what's happening. And then the next sort of big trip, because I don't have anything planned yet. There's lots of ideas.
Yeah.
And
is that a trip that you alluded to earlier? Is that potentially something you might put a bit more time into thinking about?
Well, I've thought about it, and I've kind of sorted out most of the route, and the feasibility of it is I don't know if it's possible. I need to work out the timings a year.
Yep.
But that one could be next year. But I'm also planning on a few other things next year. There's also talk of a 6-month road trip around the States and Canada with the Micras.
Oh, yeah.
Well, in America, a Micra just doesn't exist. So anything with below like a 1 liter engine, they didn't have a clue what to do. Like, I tried to get a part, and they'd sent me down a lawnmower garage to get some parts.
It's appropriate.
Perfect.
Oh, that is funny.
Yeah, but I can say a bit more on that trip, but it doesn't involve any driving. It involves crossing 7 islands and the seas between them using non-powered transport.
Oh, mate, that sounds fantastic. Sounds like my kind of trip.
Yeah. Well, that sounds really good.
Yeah.
Hey, sorry, Richard, if I cut you off. I've got one outstanding question, mate, that I'm thinking of, and I think it goes back to the beginning when you're talking about one of your friends, 2 incidents recently where someone could have ended really badly. And I see you sort of really encouraging people to come out with you and to get involved in the outdoors, which is great. I'm all for that, but I might be sounding a bit old here where I start to worry. I start to worry if I start to invite people along, especially if Tom's leading over here, that we
don't want me organising.
We might end up in a bit of trouble. Do you worry that someone's going to get hurt if you've sort of led this challenge, or how do you deal with that? Yeah,
it's a difficult one. It really is. So I do a lot of stuff where I'm taking people out, mainly in the UK. Like I said, obviously Slovenia that was a bit different, and obviously that wasn't a led trip. That was a trip I was doing, and people were welcome to join me on that.
Yep.
Whereas the ones in the UK are led, but then that's because I've spent so many years up in the mountains. I'm actually a qualified guide in some areas of the UK, so it's a bit different in that sense. So I can lead trips. I don't worry about it per se, because usually the routes we're going on, I know. usually the terrain we're going around is easy enough to handle. So it's not so much of a worry of mine, to be honest.
Good. No, I don't want you to worry about it, mate. I think it's...
Sorry, Grandad over here is
Grandad
worrying about you, mate.
No, it sounds like... I note a sense of fearlessness in some of your adventures and a bit of make it up as you go, which is great. I think that's where these stories come from, and that's where the fun is, and all that. But just old Grandad over here, just sort of thinking, you're often, I imagine, with people you don't know, and
he probably stays up late too, Craig. He probably stays up way beyond his bedtime. He probably drinks too much alcohol. Does your mother know what you do, Richard?
No, most of the time.
Oh, dear.
Oh, very good. I try and plan trips for Craig by not planning them to put a sense of adventure, and then he doesn't like it.
It is a fair point, to be honest. Like, quite a lot of people wouldn't want to do the trips that I do because they are so unplanned, and that's totally fair. Like, some trips do need planning. Like, the Slovenia trip was fairly reckless, but it was also pretty well planned. Like, I had a guidebook. I knew where I was going to get stopped. I knew where I was going to get food from. I knew how many days I was going to go out. But I think it's kind of not over planning it. If you over plan it to the day, then you've got no room for spontaneity and kind of going from there. But
absolutely,
100%.
If you don't plan it at all, you end up in the situation that we had in the convoy, in absolute chaos, which is also not ideal.
Well, I'll just follow that up, Richard, saying that if something did go wrong, mate, it sounds like you would be the sort of bloke you'd want next to you anyway. So that's cool. No, I accept that. That's cool.
I spent a month in Fiji, Richard, and I was around about your age at the time, and I remember planning to get there, planning to meet up with my mate who was already over there, and for me that was about all the planning I did. And when I got there, I remember, I wouldn't use the word panicking, but I did kind of stress that, well, hey, shouldn't I have planned a bit more? But once I got used to that feeling of, well, what are we going to do today? Whatever the hell we want to do today, and let's go down here next week, and let's surf this beach, and let's surf that beach, and let's stay in this town for a few more days because it's so much fun. That actually became quite a comfortable medium to exist in, and I still think pretty fondly of that trip for the lack of planning and that sort of thing.
Yeah, they are good trips. They're some of the most memorable ones, in my opinion.
Yeah,
and dealing with situations when they go wrong as well, I think, is also something else. That leads to some interesting memories.
Yeah. Do you find, because I mean, you touched on it right at the start of this podcast where you said that on the Slovenia trip you would only take people that you knew you could count on, you could trust, and that could physically do it. For me, Craig and I have I've got Craig into a lot of trouble before, and we've always, for the most part, been able to, argue our way out of it or work out a logical solution. And for me, that's probably my most important, how would you say it, character trait in anybody I take with me is to know that we can both sit there and have a logical conversation.
Mm.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually admit when the crap has hit the fan, what we're going to do now, and kind of deal with that accordingly. And I think it is very important. It really is. And if you haven't got people in a situation where you can rely on them to do that and have that logical conversation, like, you don't know where you're going to end up. You don't know what's going to go on. And then that's one of the risks of going with strangers.
Absolutely.
So you don't know what they could have to offer. Like, you could end up with a world-class climber out in the mountains, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, it's fine, we'll just do this.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Like, let's do that.
No, you're right. It's a real mixed bag in your case.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well,
Awesome.
it makes it more fun, doesn't it? You don't know what's going to expect.
Well, yeah, I'd probably agree with that. We last week or 2 weekends, that was about 2 weekends ago, Richard. We ended up recording a podcast from inside a cave, and I still stand by that being one of my best mistakes.
Yeah.
Because that's not where we were meant to spend the night.
Yeah, no, listen. Don't over-plan your trips. That's not what I'm here to say. It's all character building. I get that.
Don't plan anything.
No, don't plan anything. Don't plan anything. I'm changed. I'm a new man.
No, that's awesome, Richard. I think you've got the perfect balance of planning and just letting it swing in the wind, so to speak.
Absolutely.
And I think that's a pretty cool character trait.
No, it's impressive.
I think that if more people would put themselves out of their comfort zone like you, especially at that kind of, at that age that you're at where everything's, your whole personality and everything's still forming in a sense of who you're going to be. I just find it really refreshing to see you just out there just killing it, mate. It's fantastic.
Yeah, thank you very much, guys. It really is good fun, and there's quite a few people who are doing it. There really is, and they're all doing it in their own different way. And I encourage everyone to have a go at it. It comes with time, isn't it? It's the same with anything. It comes with time.
Yeah, and a lot of commitment.
The first one will be, yeah, definitely. The first one will be terrifying, and then it will just get easier.
Yeah.
To the point where you're on a podcast and you've got less than an hour and a half, 2 hours to pack for the next trip.
you keep going back to that. I'm feeling really guilty now. I'm totally cool with wrapping it up though, because we've gotten so much out of you.
Yeah.
At the same time, I think that signing off now also leaves us so much more to talk about in the future, mate. And I would honestly say that, and I know Craig would agree, that I think there should be a semi-regular thing, maybe catch up with you every year and see what crazy stuff you've added to the list, mate, if you're keen.
Oh, every year, blooming heck. You need more than an hour and a half.
We're cool. We don't have time limit. You're the only one with a time limit because you got to pack.
Yeah, that's true. That's fair.
Yeah, it's all good, buddy. Hey, what would you say the best way for people to kind of keep an eye on what crazy stuff you're up to? What's the best way for people to do that?
I would say social media, although at the minute I'm having a bit of a social media break and kind of not doing anything with it over the summer.
Okay.
But that is the best place to kind of catch up with what I'm up to and kind of, social media.
Yeah, I think personally as well, I'd recommend your website as well because that gave me a lot of background on everything, and I'll certainly be including all those links and videos in the show notes when I put that together for the listeners. So it's easy for them. They can just go to the show notes and get everything. But your yep.
And on a more exclusive note, come September time, so I've got to do it now, I will be uploading videos once a week on a YouTube channel.
Oh, wow. You've committed, mate.
I've committed, yeah. I've spent the last week and a half editing videos like a maniac, but it's doing it. I'm committing.
Oh, good.
There you go.
That's a big step. That's great. That's a hell of a way to build an audience. I look forward to checking it out myself.
Yeah, it'd be good. Well, all I can say is thank you for having me, guys, and I look forward to speaking to you next year.
Yeah, no, like you say, it might have to be sooner, but really appreciate your time. Thanks for reaching out to us. It's been a hoot listening to what you get up to. I wish you very, very safe travels on your next adventures, mate.
Yeah, and yourself, guys, and to everyone else. Have fun on your travels and adventures.
Yeah, thanks for the chat, Richard, and all the best on your trip, mate.
All right.
Awesome. Thank you very much, guys.
Take care of yourself, mate. Go and get packing, will you?
Yeah. See ya.
Of course.
All right.
See ya.
See you, fella. Bye. If you're listening to this podcast on iTunes, we'd really appreciate your ratings and comments if you can spare the time. If you'd like to know more about Hike or Die TV and keep track of our adventures around Australia, make sure you drop by HikeordieTV.com. That's where you'll find all the information you'll need to follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram or Pinterest. As always, we appreciate your support. Thanks for listening.